So my brother, as some of you know, is a farmer in the eastern panhandle of Jefferson County. He farms about 400 acres plus of corn and soybeans. And as a farmer, and you're going to plant, in the spring, you have to wait until the ground is warm enough, and then you got to rush to get it all planted. And hopefully then the spring rains come, and hopefully you have enough rain during the summer, then you got to spray and do all these things. And it broke my heart because when I talked to him a couple of days ago, he said, he had everything in the ground, but it wasn't raining. Hadn't rained. And he was very, very concerned about his crop. And as he also told me, he said, I'm not alone. So let me bring in State Agriculture Commissioner Kent Leonhardt. Commissioner, good morning. Good to talk to you. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Hoppy. Thanks for having me on, and I wish it was under better circumstances.
Yeah, this is, I know it's early, but still, what is your take on this? It's dry.
I mean, I'm suffering with it too on our farm. We don't grow row crops, but my vegetable garden, the seeds are slow to germinate. We're having to water it to get any germination, where normally this time of year we don't have to do any watering of the vegetable garden. Put the seeds in the ground and they come up. So the farmers, particularly in the eastern panhandle, are having a rough time of it, and it's going to stunt the growth. Or if they have to replant, they're going to have a shorter growing season, and it's going to be a smaller crop, unfortunately.
Yeah. Do you have any data on the lack of rain? I was just saying generally, I know it's really dry and has been dry. Do you got any data on that?
Well, on my farm, and I think over in the Martinsburg area, it was like 0.82 inches since May 5th.
What?
So that's less than an inch of rain since the 5th of May.
Since the 5th of May?
Since
Holy
the 5th
cow.
of May is the data I have.
Wow. So less than an inch of rain. I mean, that was your place, but the point being is that we haven't had rain, so maybe less than an inch of rain in the last month?
Correct.
Wow.
Correct. Way out of normal.
Yeah, it is. And as you said, I mean, as my brother said, that you get the crop in and it needs rain, otherwise it just sits there, and then you got a problem. Then you got a problem.
Sometimes it can sit there until it gets enough moisture, and it can come up later on, or you may decide to plant again and you see the rain coming. These are all decisions farmers make in these tough times. Fortunately, southern West Virginia isn't being hit as hard.
Mm-hmm.
They've got plenty of water. It's just up in the northern part of West Virginia that we're seeing this issue. But it not only affects crop, it affects the hay growth. We've turned cattle out onto our spring grasses, and you hope to rotate them through, and you're hoping the grass recovers, but they eat everything there. They move on to the next pasture, and the grass isn't recovering. And
you mentioned gardens, too. I mean, a lot of West Virginians have backyard gardens that they depend upon, and you can water to a degree. I mean, but that's a lot. That's a lot of effort to water. So a lot of gardens are stunted too. You said yours was.
Yeah, ours was, and I actually replanted my early corn. Of course, we got some cold weather after the ground warmed up, and we got warm weather, so the corn didn't cold weather, and the corn didn't germinate. So I had to replant that. That's just for my own table eating, but these are things that we deal with, unfortunately. And if you're on well water, you're okay, but if you're on city water, you're gonna, and depending upon the size of your garden, you're gonna end up spending quite a bit of money on water.
Yeah, State Ag Commissioner Kent Leonhardt is with us. Is this? I just had the Weather Service on last hour about some other things, but I asked about the rain. Is it a drought?
I would say we're on the verge of calling it a drought. I mean, if you're there and it's happening to you, it's a drought. The Weather Service hasn't actually called it a drought yet, but to me, it's a drought.
Some farmers, my brother included, have crop insurance. And that would, depending on the amount of whether you have insurance or the amount of insurance you have, it may pay for what you invested, but you're not going to make any money. Do you have any insight about crop insurance?
Well, the crop insurance is a very important item in the U.S. Farm Bill, which we're going to hear a lot about coming up through 2023. And crop insurance is one of those important parts of it. So I believe that the crop insurance folks are going to start getting ready to start talking about payment on to the farmers.
It's really
coming out. I don't have any specific insight. It's there for their use. If they've taken it out, I'm sure they'll benefit.
You know what is really hard about this? And my brother, after all these years, and I reference him because he's my brother, but I think it's what all farmers go through, is that, and he's gotten really, you get better. If you stay in business, you get better every year at what you do. And you can do everything right. You can do everything right and hit all the timing right, and then get fouled up by the weather. That's what's frustrating.
It is. And farmers, people don't understand. Farmers face uncertainty in weather. They face uncertainty in the markets because you never know what the price is going to be when you're getting ready to sell your crop or your livestock. So, one of the things that we work very hard at the Department of Agriculture is making sure that any regulations that are coming down are going to come down and that they have certainty in what's going on there. Because they have so much uncertainty in their lives, we want to make sure there's certainty. And I was so glad about that, the Supreme Court ruling on the waters of the U.S. That was a big win for the agricultural community.
Oh, yeah, that was, I haven't talked about that much, but it was because farmers in West Virginia and elsewhere could have been subject to heavy fines from the EPA if it was determined that a damp area or an area that has some water could have been subject to regulation by waters of the USA. And
so you're right. Hoppy, and West Virginia farmers are great conservationists. They do such a good job in preserving our soil and water. We have really good conservation farmers in West Virginia. They don't need the federal government telling them to clean water up because they're doing it. I mean, we're the only state meeting the needs of the Chesapeake Bay, and we're doing it voluntarily.
Oh, really? Well, I know we're in the watershed. I mean, Eastern Panhandle's in the watershed, maybe all of the state of the Chesapeake Bay. So there are certain restrictions there as to what you can put in the ground or on the ground, so it doesn't end up in the Chesapeake Bay. So that's a big deal, actually.
It's a big deal, and we're doing it all voluntarily with good conservation practices with our partners from the USDA, Natural Resource Conservation Service, the West Virginia Conservation Agency, the West Virginia Department of Agriculture. We do nutrient management plans so the farmer only puts on what he actually needs, so there's less to no runoff going into the waters. West Virginia's doing it, and we don't need the federal government to tell us. Our animals thrive on clean water. Our crops grow better in clean water. We know what we need.
Yeah, State Ag Commissioner Kent Leonhardt is with us. Kent, one of the new and potentially already expanding businesses in West Virginia is Mountaintop Beverage in Morgantown, and they process milk, and it's shelf stable. It doesn't have to be refrigerated with the way they process it, and they're in business. And they have a market for their milk. They already are, I think, talking about expanding. And you think that there might be a potential for more of the dairy business in West Virginia. I'm going to let you say that. Then I'm going to tell you I'd rather hit myself in the head with a hammer all day than be in the dairy business. But you go ahead anyway. Make a pitch.
Well, absolutely. There's a lot of folks that want to farm, but farming has to be profitable for somebody to come in and do what they love to do. And, yes, and times have changed from where the farmer wants to be on the farm 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. But, with the new technology we have with robotic milking and some of the other things that have done in the technology and the learning curve where cows can almost milk themselves, you can afford to hire some help nowadays. So if we do bring on these new dairy farms, they're not going to be doing what you want to hit yourself in the head with. There's a way to do this and make a good living. It does mean a larger dairy farm than what most of us grew up knowing, but it is possible, and we are working on trying to identify potential investors, identify technologies, and encourage folks that maybe want to see a new way of life and live on a farm and expand the dairy business, because it looks like we're going to have a market right here in West Virginia.
All right, Ag Commissioner Kent Leonhardt, who, by the way, was just named Vice President of the Southern U.S. Trade Association, an organization that works with small and medium agribusinesses to help them move their markets outside of the U.S. So congratulations on that, being elected that position. And we'll talk again
Thank
soon,
you.
And hopefully we'll get some rain soon. How about that? Do a rain dance or something outside the office. Something.
If I could do a rain dance for everybody, I'd do it.
All right. Thanks, Kent. Good to talk to you.
Thanks for having me. Thank you, Hoppy.
Bye-bye. Talkline